welcome back to this channel. I am the Spell Singer, and this is my ongoing review of the Fighting Fantasy Gamebook series. And in this review, I'm going to give a short look at this title and book number, read the blurb, check out the plot, look at some of those game mechanics and adventure sheet, and I'll run the artwork through this video, and then talk about my own likes, dislikes, any fun facts to be had, any errors, a summary and score, and I'll finish on a shout out. So this book is number 29. This is Midnight Rogue, and this was published back in 1987 by Graham Davis. Graham Davis, I think, was working at Games Workshop at the time, so this is like a bit of an in-house job. But the cover art here and the internal artwork, actually, both internal and cover, was John Civic. So he's given us a really great depiction of the city of Thieves, because obviously this book is based in Blacksand. So we're back in Blacksand, which is always a good thing, right? So let's read the blurb for this book. Okay, danger lurks in every corner of Port Blacksand, infamous city of evil-doers. You are an apprentice in the Thieves Guild of Port Blacksand. Tonight is the testing time, the climax of your training. Your mission is to find and steal a priceless gem, the Eye of the Basilisk. And the special skills you have learned will be tested to the limit. Many terrors lie in wait in the darkness of the evil city's backstreets and alleys. Will you be able to accomplish your dangerous task? You have until morning to prove yourself. Okay, so that's the blurb. So that gives you a good little insight into what you can expect from this game book. Okay, let's talk about the plot for Midnight Rogue. Now, like I say, it's set back in Port Blacksand, so the city of thieves, and that was brought to us originally by Ian Livingstone back in book 5, I think it was. We've obviously already reviewed that one. And it casts you as kind of like an unrealistic, an unheroic character, I should say. It puts you as an apprentice thief, so you're not like the sword for hire or the hero as such in this one. You're an apprentice thief, and you're undergoing the test for guild membership. So this is the test that will get you into the Thieves Guild. And the task is to basically steal a valuable gem, which is called the Eye of the Basilisk. And it's depicted on that front cover. And you've got to nick it from a merchant named Brass. And the adventure involves burgling a variety of locations around Port Blacksand to gain clues as to its whereabouts. Once found, the protections put in place to guard this gem turn out to be an even greater test. And the first half of this adventure is set in Port Blacksand, where you have to, track down these clues that will eventually lead you to this gem, the Eye of the Basilisk. And this is quite a lot of fun, and Davis's writing here kind of draws real tension out of your mission. And it's great to have a proper run around Port Blacksand again. That's always a good thing. And unfortunately, once you leave Blacksand, the book becomes a bit of a sort of generic dungeon crawl, which is a bit of a shame, but it's like a book of two halves, really. Yeah, so you've got all the sneaking around Blacksand at night time for the first half, and then when you find the location, you go there, and it's underneath Blacksand, so it's underneath the city of Thieves in this kind of generic dungeon. There is more depth to the plot than just your general sort of essence, depending on which route you take into various locations around the city. And you can see different angles on things and generally learn what you ought to be doing as you go along, as you progress through this story. For example, if you try to access Brass's house by shinnying up the drain pipe, peering in through the windows, you can establish who is in what room, and therefore learn what you will meet once you get inside that building via the front door. So it's a good way of sort of trying to think, have I got the right building, have I got the right house? Just climb up the drain pipe and peek through the windows. So there are relatively few encounters and combats within this book, within Midnight Rogue. itself, which is kind of logical, as you would not really, you know, as a thief, you wouldn't want to be drawing too much attention to yourself as you're sneaking about. But once you pass into this dungeon, there are numerous encounters, and they're all quite tough as well. Lots of traps to make sense of in this second part of the book. It's quite effective as a dungeon crawl, but it is just another dungeon crawl. The two parts of the book add good variety, and they also give you sort of meaning to this being an initiation, you know, that involves more than, you know, just stealing this gem. There is some nice continuity from other trips to Port Blacksand, like the city guards that are all dressed up just as they were in City of Thieves. You've got Lord Azur's palace mentioned as well, this kind of impenetrable palace that shows up. You've got Madame Star, if you remember her from City of Thieves as well. And the pubs, they're all sort of very unpleasant and remind you of reading that original book. And I think you can even meet Nicodemus as well, so he shows up for a bit of friendly banter as well. So again, this is a nice touch as it adds to the atmosphere and makes Blacksand kind of feel familiar. The plot is also very interactive, as you have considerable scope to explore. It's very open world rather than just a linear route. And although the dungeon crawl is quite linear, the actual exploration of the city makes up for this. Yeah, that's the plot. So that's quite a lot to sort of do in this book. It's still 400 references, obviously, but yeah, lots to get stuck into. Let's chat about game mechanics and the adventure sheet. So in this book, you can't carry more than 6 items in sort of any time, you know, in your backpack, with your provisions counting as one of those items as well. So together with the potion, which you can choose from, your hand lamp, the tinderbox, this means that you start the game with only 1 space left in your backpack for any stuff that you might be interested in picking up. The book offers you a choice of 3 special skills that are taught by the Thieves Guild. You've got to choose 3 of these skills, and some of these may be acquired later in the adventure as well. So as you play through, you will quickly establish which ones are the more important ones. So just to give you an idea about what those are, the choices are climb, hide, picklock, pickpocket, secret signs, sneak, and spot hidden. So you get to choose all those cool sort of skills before you set out. And whilst there are many references asking if you have these skills throughout the book, it becomes apparent that some will be a lot more useful than others, which is kind of typical of these books, isn't it? And there's always a whole load of stuff to learn, and 1 or 2 barely get a mention. If you didn't choose the best ones, you could go round and round in circles until you either die or lose interest. The hide, sneak, climb and spot hidden can often be substituted for successful luck tests or sort of skill tests that you get thrown at. The pickpocket is largely kind of useless and offers a very few benefits, but secret signs, while sounding kind of mysterious and something you would want to go for, is probably the worst actually of the whole lot, as you normally end up kind of deciphering the signs anyway, but it transpires you don't really understand them once you've deciphered them, so it's kind of like a bit pointless, but it adds a bit of flavour. It's not impossible to beat this book without picklock and climb, but they do become essential as well, depending on your sort of skill and luck situations. Depending on which skill you have started with, the book knows that picklock and climb are kind of, like I say, essential. And you can find these items in Blacksand that will help you gain the status of that skill and act as a substitute, for example. So if you took climbing, but you didn't choose it as a skill, you can find a grapple, a rope and grapple a bit later in the book. And then you've acquired the climbing skill. So it's, yeah, it can be, it's clever. Obviously the author, Graham Davis, he's gotten around this, so you can complete it even if you don't pick the right skills. So there is a kind of definite challenge in finding the 3 numerical codes that you need to get out of Blacksand, to lead you to this underground layer where the eye of the Basilisk is hidden. And this aspect is really good at making cheating almost impossible. But it's only a matter of time from, repeatedly reading this book and visiting the locations before you sort of, you'll find those codes eventually. Still, it's quite clever, but yeah, a bit of a spoiler coming up here. When you burgle Brass's house, you discover the code reference 355. So you get that code from Brass's house, and then after breaking into the Merchants Guild, you glean the code 90. Okay, so that's 2 codes. And then finally, you discover at the Noose, which is a place in Port Blacksand, you discover the code 289. A last clue leads you to take the first number from each code in the right order, which gives you 392. So that's quite a clever little game mechanic. You've got your 3 codes, but only one number from those 3 references needs to be taken in order to lead you to that final reference as where the opening to this underground dungeon is. So yeah, it's quite clever. I don't think that technique has been used before, and I can't think that it's been used again since, but it's a good one. So yeah, well done, Mr. Davis. Right, here's the adventure sheet. I've cropped it because I kind of thought, don't need to see those encounter boxes every time because they don't really change an awful lot, but when they do change, I'll stick it up there. But you can see your skills, stamina and luck as normal. You got your special skills, which you can tick off, any provisions that you have, and then you've got your notes where you can put your references and your clues as you find them. You've got your backpack items, and it always says in the book, well, I say always, it doesn't always tell you what is backpack and what isn't. So something that you can wear or put in a pocket is not a backpack item. It's an other item, which is obviously listed there as well. So yeah, you kind of makes sense. As a thief, you don't want to be carrying too much stuff because it doesn't make sense, does it, for your particular trade? But yeah, that's the adventure sheet. So all good there. Right, let's talk about the artwork for this book. So the colour map, which is here on the inside cover, was by Steve Luxton. And it's a nice depiction of the city that allowed you to sort of visualise the size of Blacksand. And we never really got a colour map in the book 5, City of Thieves. So here we've got a nice depiction of what Blacksand looks like and where everything kind of is located. Now, John Sibbick is the British freelance illustrator known for his depiction of prehistoric life, for his fantasy imagery. And Sibbick's art here adds to the kind of sense of place really well, especially the images within Port Blacksand, all those kind of locations and places of interest. The art is full of vivid gives you a really colourful kind of look to the city, even though most of it is sort of set at night time. Dungeon images also have a kind of suitable dark gloom to them. Plus there's this kind of distinctive feeling that, the sun is setting and it kind of heightens the tension, if you like. All works really well. There are sort of amazing nighttime images as you're creeping around, lots of shadow work, which kind of helps. Lots of characters' hands and feet. So I'll put up a little video of all the times you see these hands and feet show up. And always find that kind of helps to immerse yourself. You are the protagonist, you're this thief. And if you can see an image along with the description of your hands and feet as you either steal something around someone's neck or you're shimmying up a drain pipe, then when you can see that in the artwork, I always find it kind of lends a nice hand to the overall style. The use of internal illustrations really pull you into this adventure in a nice way. Kind of, like I say, allows you to immerse yourself far easier into this role of thievery. This is my favourite picture, this poor screaming girl. So you break into this house at one point and you sneak through and you put your ear to the door and you can't hear anything. So you sneak in and I think it's a luck or skill roll. Or maybe if you've got that sneak skill, but if you fail, she wakes up and she freaks out, and this picture kind of leaps off the page at you with its kind of jagged lines, the scream. It's kind of got like that shattered scream feel, like the silence is shattered along with it. So it's really clever. I do think Sibbick's work here is perfectly suited to this book. He does a really good job. And yeah, this is my fave. Right, likes and dislikes for this book. I loved all the prowling around the city at night, climbing up those drain pipes, climbing over walls, creeping over rooftops. But it's only half the book, which is a massive shame. That was, I think the draw for me on this book was the first half, where you play that burglar sneaking around the city of Thieves. The other half is kind of a dull as dishwater dungeon crawl leading to the gem. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 2/3 of the book could have been exploring the city and the final third in the dungeon. Maybe that would have worked better for me. I don't mind dungeon crawls, but we've had them before and we're going to get a lot more. So I think the whole book could have been done. That would have been so much more fun, but we've got it now. So, so that's, that for me, the exploring of the city and the breaking into the houses is sort of like, that's the nature and the essence of the book for me. Avoiding all the guards and sticking to the shadows is the first part of this book. I really like the skills tailored to the thief. Getting the chance to use them in lots of different interesting ways is great. I really like that. Lots of different situations where you can use these skills, and then you have to kind of like compromise and come up with something creative if you don't have those skills. So yeah, I really like that. The limited backpack space made you kind of cautious about what to pick up and what not to pick up. And that gave you a sense of the fact that you are light-footed. And again, adds to that realism. I'm not so keen on the option to start again if you fail to find all those number clues. It kind of worked in Forest of Doom, but in this one, if this occurs, you are allowed to go back to reference 1 and search again, which presents the problem that Blacksand kind of resets itself. Because of course, it's not too noticeable, but you will be encountering people that you've already encountered and fighting people that you've already beaten. So that's kind of weird. So it kind of fails a little bit there. It's, I guess you can't really get around that. And Forest of Doom had the same problem as well. But you can find yourself recollecting the same items, which is a bit weird as well. So yeah, it's a bit tricky. The tavern, the sleeping beggar in the Merchants Guild, and the resets of Brass's house are a bit of a problem. But the fact that you can return to the start an infinite number of times, essentially, does suggest a very long night and removes some of the sense of urgency from the book. But yeah, that's just a very small dislike. Fun facts for this book. The book had the working title of Prince of Thieves till it was rejected by Sir Ian Livingstone. And this was the first book to have a cover depicting you. So you're usually not on that front cover, but here, that is you. So it kind of in a way works because it shows you what you look like, but I always liked that I didn't know what I looked like and then I could just use my imagination, Anyway, so this is the first one, yeah. Midnight Rogue featured a number of fake entries as well, intended to discourage cheating. So let me give you an example. I think on 260, let me give you an example of this. So this is what it says. You have come to the end of your adventure. You reach out a trembling hand to take the eye of the Basilisk. Turn to 275. You cheat. There's no way here except from 260, and there's no way to 260 from anywhere else in the adventure. Go back to 1 and start again, this time without cheating. So there's one, and there's another one, I think a bit later in the book, very similar. So yeah, these entries could not be accessed by anyone playing through the book fairly, and kind of chided you almost for cheating in the first place. A further reference, 158, I think it is. Let me see if I got that. 158. There is no way that you could have picked up a magical weapon by this stage in the adventure. You've been cheating. Go back to 1 and start again. Do it honestly this time. So I quite like that. Yeah, this is also designed to discourage cheating, and it's quite clever, but it's quite charming, isn't it? In a way, yeah. But yeah, the attitude towards cheaters may explain sort of some of the inconsistencies between the text and the book's slightly misleading cover, since part of the game book revolves around establishing the location of this jewel, the eye of the basilisk. The errors evident on the cover are that the eye of the basilisk is obviously red here on the cover, but it's actually yellow in the book when you actually get it. The gargoyles, only one of whom is alive, are guarding the Merchants Guild, whereas on the cover they're guarding the eye of the basilisk. And so that's slightly odd. And the actual chamber with the eye of the basilisk is in the dungeon under Barrow Hill. Okay, not within Port Blacksand, not in the city. It's underneath. So yeah. However, that cover really works. I like it. I think it's a great cover. As a piece of art, it kind of captures your imagination nicely, and yeah, it's unique because it shows yourself. Errors for this book. There's no reason why you need to collect all three of those clues that I keep harping on about to get the eye's resting place. Two of them are identical, and the third is kind of irrelevant to the location. So it's possible also to gain the climb skill by acquiring that rope and grapnel I mentioned. So there are subsequent passages which describe you using other methods to climb. It's also possible to be sent back to one, like I said earlier, to start over again, thus repeating many of the scenarios. So it's kind of an error, but it's also a bit of a sort of continuity thing. So it's, we can forgive that, right? Yeah, so there's not really any point to reference 161. So it's a bit of a spoiler. There is a neat twist at the end where it becomes apparent that the whole exercise was just one big test, as the jewel is fake, it's made of glass. So there's your spoiler, and that kind of presents a bit of a plot hole, given that Brass the merchant, the keeper of the jewel, supposedly, or the owner of it, is the pivot to finding the jewel. So are we supposed to think that he was in on it all the time? I don't know. Weird. But yeah, that reference 161. It's kind of pointless. I'll read it to you. Okay. You stop to think. You are certain that the eye of the basilisk lies ahead. If you go back, you will have failed your test, and you will spend the rest of your life wondering whether or not you could have succeeded. On the other hand, if you go on, you will have to face whatever is in there. It may be able to see in the magical darkness, and if it can, you will be at a terrible disadvantage. You think hard about what to do. If you decide to go on after all, turn to 352. If not, you've failed your test and the adventure ends there. What? I mean, it's kind of like a filler. It's kind of like a filler reference where you have a little think about whether you want to carry on or not, and then make a decision to carry on or not. Anyway, there's a couple of other little things. There are several items that have no instructions as to whether they count as backpack items or not, and that becomes quite important later on in the book. And this includes your hand lamp, your torch, your tinderbox. 10 portions of provisions in this book take up the same space as one. There is no restriction on the number of weapons you can carry either, and I always thought weapons didn't really sit well with a thief. Reference 71 asks if you have 5 gold pieces, but it's impossible to reach that reference with that much money. So, yeah. And reference 73 asks if you have 3 items, but it's impossible to reach this reference without any of them. So, yeah. And there's also a funny little infinite loop that takes off between reference 45 and 321, where you can go round and round and gain infinite luck. So yeah, most of the errors, they're not really game breakers, but they just add a little bit of flavour to the story. Right, let's summarise this book and give it a score. So Midnight Rogue is a game book where the entertainment factor is very high, and the difficulty is very low. It's not a difficult book to complete. There are There isn't any kind of blind wandering around mazes or anything. Here, it's sort of more, the whole campaign is like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle adventure put together for you to solve. And you have to locate all these clues, discover keys, and other means of entry to find the location of this gem. And there are sudden deaths, and other deaths due to sort of bad, bad rolls, unlucky skill rolls, unlucky luck rolls. But it's a fair game book overall. Mr. Davies' prose is very descriptive, which I always like, adding to the atmosphere of the campaign. The seedy kind of aspects of the criminals in Port Blacksand are kind of watered down, but that's to be expected for a game book that's aimed at children, so that's fair enough. The Midnight Rogue book is a solid entry in the Fighting Fantasy series, particularly for those who enjoy urban adventures and the thieving mechanics. And while the second half of the book might not live up to the first half, it still offers a good adventure, especially for those new to the series or looking for a different kind of protagonist. The adventure also stands out for its interesting structure as well. You begin in Port Blacksand, and your first objective is to figure out where the eye is kept, and then once you have that information, you can then go, through a trap-filled dungeon. So it's got lots of variety, and that's always a good thing in these books. There is a notable increase in difficulty in this dungeon that you get to at the end, but you feel at risk in a way that you haven't before, certainly not in the first half of the book. And since the Port Blacksand part of the mission is about sort of information gathering, if you fail to acquire the information you need to get to the dungeon, the book sends you back to paragraph 1, like I mentioned, sort of gives you a chance to try again, so that's quite a nice thing. This isn't without its issues like we've talked about, because it's kind of unclear whether you should repeat encounters, but it's a nice gesture, right? Midnight Rogue is a welcome change to the Fighting Fantasy books. It's at a time when the series kind of needed it as well. There was a lot of sort of samey books out there, so this one kind of threw it in the mix and like a melted pot and spat it out and gave it a nice sort of different feel. Davies' prose is of a high standard, very flavourful, does a great job at conveying the kind of seedy environment of Port Blacksand. It's a shame that he didn't write more adventures for this series. The only drawback here is the design can get rather slack at times, especially in the second act when you have discovered the location of the eye. Sometimes you are allowed to sort of perform something without requiring one of those unique thief skills, which kind of undermines some of them. But there will be other moments where you need that skill to perform a similar action. So it's a little bit inconsistent, but yeah, never mind. I don't feel that these issues get in the way of the book. It's still a good, strong book. It's good old intruder romp adventure, but this is an entertaining little game book, at the same time. So difficulty-wise, the book is a bit too simple for my liking. There's a lot of help that you're given in terms of atmosphere, and the fun of sort of playing a thief kind of gets taken away when you get offered that much help. But it's really good. I really loved it. It's original, it has a variety, and it adds to the series in a nice way. If it were me, I would have made it a little bit harder, maybe make you have to plan your skills and your route a little more, but it's fine. If it were a little harder, it would make you have to plan your skills and your route that much more, learn from past playthroughs, but it's still got a lot going for it, and it's worthwhile entry in this series of books. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Yeah, Midnight Rogue, 6 out of 10. Okay, let's give a shout out to someone. There's a YouTuber who's got this channel. It's called Age of Ink, and it's really good. This guy, he obviously loves all these old books that he does these little retrospectives for. So he's got a lot of Tolkien on there, a lot of Lord of the Rings, but he also does mini retrospectives for these books as well. So he's done the Sorcery series, which I'm going to review soon, actually. I'm going to do those soon. But yeah, he's got this really great eye. He captures the books and he videos them and photographs them really nice. He's obviously got a really expensive camera, a lot better than one I'm using right now. And he's got a great voice for it as well. And he really deep dives into these books and gives you a kind of visual look of how great these books were, you know, back in the day, before the digital age took over. But yeah, try him. He's really great. Age of Ink, worth having a look. So the next book I'm going to review is book 30, which is Chasms of Malice. So that's Luke Sharp again. You all know how I feel about Luke Sharp, but we'll do that one next. And in the meantime, look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next review.